What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting, very fast episode right here on the MIgardener channel. So in today's episode, I'm going to show you how to divide out your multi-sown onions. Now, this is a very common question we get asked. A lot of you write in, especially when we sow our onion seeds. You say, okay, look, I know you don't necessarily believe in lying, so I know what you're saying is true, but it's hard for me to envision what it's going to look like when it's ready to be planted out in the garden. And when it is ready to be planted, I want to see you do it. And so I just was keeping that promise. I told a lot of people that I would do it, and so yeah, let's do it. So we're going to be planting out our onions here. I've got about a 4 foot by 8 foot space. That's really all the space we're going to allocate towards onions this year. I love onions. They're super fun to grow, but it's kind of hard to intercrop around them. And because I have such big plans for the garden this year, I want to pack as much as I possibly can in. So we have a slightly smaller space dedicated to onions this year, but that's totally fine because the way we plant and how close we space them means we get a ton of plants in a smaller area. So you know, we're going to be practicing high intensity gardening as we do always. And so we're probably going to get, I don't know, I mean, I'll count when we're done, but I would say probably between 60 and 80 onions in this little space here. So it'd be a nice yield, and I'm looking forward to it. So coming in close, I'm going to show you how we get these things separated and then planted, and then you guys can get out in your garden and plant your onions. All right, so we're going to just be using a stick today for a dibbler. Now, a dibbler is a really kind of a handy little tool when planting out onions, but I don't have one with me, and I have it at the shop. And basically a stick will do. I'm just going to use it to poke a hole and kind of just work out a little divot, a little hole, about every 3-4 inches or so. And so they're going to be spaced out 3 to 4 inches on center, and that means each onion is going to be getting the proper about 5 to 6 inches spacing or so. Ish. You know, it's not perfect, but we're going to be getting a good amount of plants in a row here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 onions per row, which is great. And then here's the magic. So a lot of you want to see how this actually works. You guys think, holy cow, you're planting 10, 20, 30 onions in a 3-inch pot. How on earth does it actually come out unscathed? Like, how do you not damage roots? Well, here's how. So when you pull the plant out, it looks pretty wild and crazy. But look at this. We're going to take it. We're simply going to squeeze it gently, loosen that soil up. We're going to work our fingers in and slowly untangle the soil. And because onions have super wiry roots, you get all that soil out. You just work that soil out from the root ball. Kind of, I don't know, like detangle it with your fingers. You're going to lose a tad bit of roots. It's not that big of a deal. And then you're simply going to pull. And you're going to pull. This is not a magic trick. It's not a card trick. There's no magic here. Look at this. Just like this. They just detangle. Every single one. Look at this. Boom. It's the most satisfying thing in the world. All of our onions were started in a 3-inch pot. And this is a game changer that will change your life. You will save so much room when seed starting. Your grow room will have way more space for other things. You will spend less time planting single cells of onions. You will spend way more time having more fun in the garden. And there you go. That was in real time. Every single reason why I love this method. It is phenomenal. So now you just take these like this. And because onions are super resilient, I just take my onions and I plant them just a little bit past the white of the onion. You'll notice the greens, and then if they're red, they'll be red. If they're a white onion, they'll be, or if they're white onion, they'll be white. If they're red, they'll be red. And if they're yellow, they'll have a slight yellow color to them. That is the future bulb. I will bury that just below the soil surface and keep it up like this. So we're gonna take our hole, pop it in the ground, and plant it. It's that simple. Super easy to do. This is a trick that I learned probably about 5-6 years ago, and I have never looked back. It is the simplest way to grow a ton of onions from seed, get them ready to plant. And I know that a lot of you have just kind of stumbled across this method for the first time. And let me tell you, if you're worried about it, if you are fearful about messing something up, you have nothing to worry about. They are the most forgiving crop. They are so easy to separate, and they are so much fun to grow. So we're gonna get these planted And that is how we do it. Now, this will apply to things such as shallots as well. We got some shallots, a little more floppy, not quite as straight up and down, but same premise. We're gonna dump them out just like that. We're gonna detangle the roots, separate them out, the same exact thing. So you can do this with shallots, you can do this with onions, you can do this with leeks, you can do this with bunching onions, you can do this with just about, I mean, quite literally any allium separates super easily like this because the roots are super wiry, and that's the secret, that's the benefit. You could never do this with something like a tomato. With a tomato, you'd ruin so many roots that you might as well just start separately in separate little containers your tomatoes. You couldn't really do this with cucumbers or lettuce or things like that. The roots are just way too fine. They get way too tangled up, and then they end up kind of struggling. But because onions are a bulbing crop, they have a much different root system because they grow communally. They've actually grown like this since day one. They're very used to growing up close to each other. And that's why they can be separated so easily. Whereas a crop like a cucumber, it needs to compete. And so part of its root system is kind of how it competes. Whereas onions, they don't want to kill each other off because they grow communally. Cucumbers do not grow communally, right? So the root system kind of is why you can do this with onions and not other crops. But I'll tell you what, it saved me a ton of time, and it's definitely worth trying. All right, so in an effort to make this the fastest MIgardener episode ever, I did forget one tiny little thing, and that's pruning your onions. So whenever I plant out my onions like this, a lot of people ask if I prune or do I not prune. Now, you guys know that I do recommend pruning in containers like this. That way they stay nice and upright. That way they don't crimp at the stem, and that way they don't kind of flop all over each other and kind of smother each other out. So I do recommend pruning in the pots when they're small. However, I also recommend pruning once you get them out in the garden. Reason why is once those onions are growing up, you want them to stay upright. If they fall for any reason and the stem crimps over, the neck of the onion crimps over, it'll be done. It basically will tell itself that it's ready to be harvested. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna relieve some of the weight from the onion. And we're basically gonna do that simply by, if there's anything growing on the ground like that, we're simply gonna take our hand and about up to my, like if I stuck my hand up like this, up to my knuckle, I pinch off. And that way, release some of that weight. It's very, very simple. Go like this, and that's all I do. Now, I don't have to do that every single time. I kind of get an idea for how much I'm taking off, and I can just come through here, and I can just pick off without pulling them out of the ground, obviously. You could use scissors if you want, but they break very easily. And I'll just pick them off, and then that way the weight is off of the neck of the onion, and they can stand up a little taller, a little more straight as well. So there you go. That's everything that I do when I plant out my onions. Make sure to give them a good watering, and they'll be good. So that's really all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit a like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. We have lots more gardening content coming out, usually not episodes this short, but there's no reason to babble on if I don't need to. So I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Get your onions in the ground, and let me know in the comments box down below if you've used this method and what you think about it. As always, guys, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. Take care. Bye.